Hi, I'm Kristine Binette, and I am the main field service manager with the Epilepsy Foundation New England. And I want to welcome you tonight to our live webinar called The Truth About Service Dogs. And we're so lucky to have Josh Drew from Little Angel Service Dogs. They're an amazing organization, service dog organization, and they're here to provide us with the most up-to-date information about what it takes for a dog to be a service dog, what goes into it, and kind of what you need to know if this is something that maybe you're thinking about for your loved one. So I want to just say thanks, Josh, again. And I'm going to hand over everything to Josh. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video so you don't see me. So I'll be sharing my screen and you'll be seeing Josh's presentation. I also want to let you know at the end of the presentation, what I'll do is I'll unmute everybody that is on. And that'll be your chance to ask questions directly to Josh. So if you're listening during the presentation, maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper and write down your question. Or if it's easier for you, record it on your phone so you don't forget your question. So basically just, we're going to be doing all of that at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop my camera and mute myself so you won't be hearing me, and I look forward to everybody being here and us sharing this wonderful information. And this will also be recorded, so if you miss something or you want to share it with a loved one, we'll have that recorded and up, and we'll make sure that we email it to all of the individuals that signed up today for the presentation. So without further ado.
All right, can everyone hear me? Am I coming through? I think so. Okay.
Yes, Josh.
Okay, I am not seeing the slides pop up. Is everyone else able to see them? Okay. So I will.
Hold on one second, Josh. I'm going to go ahead and click my screen to share.
Okay.
And why
Make sure they're up before I start talking.
Yeah, make another presenter. Why is it not allowing me to share my screen? There we go.
I just made you the presenter. I think it was defaulting to me, Kristine, because you and I have both signed on. It's all set now.
Okay, thanks so much, Susan.
All right, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you are all here to join in and listen to this. I'm really excited to talk to you about our organization and specifically our seizure alert service dogs. So kind of my game plan for this is I want to talk a little bit about the organization first, what we do, who we serve, and then I'm going to talk about the training that goes into the dogs, how hard our trainers have to work to get them to the point of being a true legitimate service dog. I'm going to touch a lot on how we do seizure alert training specifically. And then I'm also going to talk about the process of getting a service dog through us, what that entails, and what it's like after you get the dog. And I'm going to try to leave a lot of time for questions at the end. I think that's one of the most important parts of this presentation. So I think we're good to move forward. Awesome. So who are we? Little Angels. Little Angels Service Dogs. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have always been located in San Diego for about, I think they've had that ranch open for about 10 years. Just last year, I was tasked with opening up a new ranch in New Hampshire. So we're located in Bartlett, New Hampshire on the East Coast. We have a 35-acre ranch out here. And we have a really awesome property where our trainers actually live on site with the dogs so that they aren't in a kennel type environment. So it works really well for the training, and we kind of have this huge, large family out here that's a lot of fun. So we are lucky in the sense that we are able to help a lot of different people, and that's kind of our mission. Our mission is actually to change lives one dog at a time. And so obviously in this, we're focusing on our seizure alert dogs, but I also want to tell you about all the other services we do. Is a lot of times they kind of cross paths. So we can move forward. Who am I specifically? I am the one on the left. Again, my name is Josh. I got into this because of the guy on the right. That is my brother who has an extremely rare neurological disease. We decided that it would be very beneficial for him to get a service dog. My background was marketing, so I helped him with a lot of the fundraising to do it. In the process, I fell in love with all of it. The director out in San Diego asked me to leave Boston and move to San Diego and work for them. And that was about 4 years ago, and it has all turned into this. So it's been quite a crazy ride, but it's been an awesome one. I love it, and there's not another field I can imagine myself being in. So move forward, please. Okay, so our philosophy in how we train. We hold ourselves to the highest integrity in training service dogs that act like true service dogs in public. One of my personal pet peeves, probably my biggest pet peeve, is seeing people that buy a $30 vest off of Amazon and slap it on a completely untrained dog just because they feel like they should have the right to bring a dog out in public. And kind of one of our mottos in Little Angels is if you truly need a service dog, you don't want a service dog, because you would much rather not need one than have your disability and have to have one. So we are really pride ourselves on all of our dogs truly deserving to be out in public because of the training that they've received. So because of that, we are a part of ADI, Assistance Dogs International. It's one of the leading nonprofits in the world that determines service dog guidelines and how service dogs should act and behave. We adhere to all of their standards, and we love being a part of that group. It gives us a lot of great resources to talk with some amazing dog trainers throughout the entire world. And then in terms of how we train our dogs, we truly believe that dogs should like working. No dog should ever resent having to work. They shouldn't resent having to help their person. So to us, training should be a lot of fun. Training always starts with basic obedience, with the dogs learning how to behave, basically how to be a good boy or girl in public. And then once we have that foundational training in, we teach all of the advanced tasks. And that is what a dog is doing specifically to help you with your disability. And that's where it gets really fun for us. We believe that those advanced tasks should always be a game. We want the dogs jumping up and down, wagging their tails, super excited when they have to get to work. To them, it's all play. So we really love when people come up to us, and one of the biggest comments we always get in public is, one, how well behaved the dogs are, but two, how happy they always look. You can visibly see a smile on the dogs. Their tails are basically hitting their ribs because their butts are wagging so much from having so much fun. So we really pride ourselves on that. If you ever see our dogs out in public, you'll see that yourselves. Next slide, please. So the type of service dogs that we train, and one thing I should have mentioned before that I didn't, we are very lucky to help a lot of fields, or a lot of disabilities, I should say, that most people, most organizations are not able to help. We not only help adults, but we help teenagers, kids, and even young children with service dogs. We do train what we call a skilled companion dog, in which a dog is trained to assist and help a child, but is handled by a responsible parent. And a lot of organizations will not do that. This is especially relevant in this field for epilepsy. We do always train service dogs for very young children that alert to the parents and are handled by the parents, but it really is life-changing for those kids. We also, as you can see, we do psychiatric service dogs. We not only do that for veterans, but we also do civilian psychiatric. And we do find a lot of times that that's a cross disability with our epilepsy recipients, is they may also have not necessarily PTSD, but maybe anxiety, panic attacks, some sort of psychiatric condition that we find the dog can also help. So as you can see from the list, we help 6 main disabilities, and within these there are hundreds and hundreds of different disabilities that we actually touch, but these are kind of how we group our service dogs. Seizure alert dogs, of course. We do mobility assistance dogs, psychiatric service dogs, autism assistance dogs, hearing assistance dogs, and diabetic alert dogs. And now again, the reason that I'm putting all these on here is we don't always train service dogs to just do one field. Very often our dogs will have to help someone across multiple fields, whether it's seizure and mobility. Like I said, seizure and psychiatric. With children, we have done a lot of seizure and not necessarily autism, but children that present as having autism, and a combination of those two. So I'm going to run through the tasks of all of our different fields that we help, just so you have an idea of all the different tasks that the dogs do. And then, of course, we're going to focus a lot on the seizure alert tasks. So next slide, please. Okay, so let's start off with seizure alert. Obviously, this is the one that you all will be most interested in. First and foremost, we obviously train the dogs to alert to seizures. Now, I do have a slide ahead in the slideshow that will talk about how we get the dogs to do that. It's a very cool process, but just to give you a quick kind of preview of that, it's all scent-based. And so we have figured out that with most recipients, when your body is about to have a seizure, it is also giving off a pheromone scent. And we have figured out that we can capture that pheromone scent and then teach dogs to sniff that out. So that is, again, I'll talk about that in a lot more detail, but that is how we do seizure alert. We teach the dogs to dial an emergency assistance phone. And I'm sorry, I should have put a picture up of what that looks like. It's really cool. We have a box that sits on the ground and plugs into your phone jack. It has a bright yellow button on it. We teach the dogs to go and hit it from anywhere in the house, and when it is dialed, it sends an automated message to up to 5 people. It will ring 5 different numbers until someone picks up, and when they do pick up, they get a message that says, "Hi, this is Josh. I'm having a medical emergency. Respond to this address." And the cool part too is that they not only have to pick up, they have to hit a specific number that the machine prompts so that it can confirm that someone actually heard the message. So it's a pretty foolproof system. Most people put 5 family members. Some people, if they don't live near family, they will just put 911 and immediately have paramedics respond. So that has been a life-changing task that we train for the dogs. Obviously, all of these tasks can help change a life, but I guess I should say this one has actually saved lives. Very recently, we had a recipient, elderly recipient, whose husband was out at sea for quite some time, and she fell through a glass table and had a bleeding disorder, and the dog dialed the phone, called paramedics, and ended up saving her life from it. So that is a really incredible task. It's a lot of fun to teach the dogs. It's actually one of their favorite tasks to learn. They start slapping this box around on the floor like it's a hockey puck. They get super amped up, and we love to work with them on it. Retrieval of meds and the vest. We will teach the dogs to either retrieve a pouch or a vest that has medicine in it and bring it back to the recipient. Obviously, a lot of different types of epilepsy can be helped or aided with some sort of medication. And so if it's something that we can tell in advance that a recipient is going to be having a seizure, we will have the dogs go and bring medicine to them so they don't have to risk standing up and walking over to get it. They can just remain seated. So that is very cool. We will also teach the dogs. Sometimes we've had recipients that will have meds that help them after a seizure has ended. So we will have dogs that will go and retrieve a vest or pouch during the seizure and bring it back so that the recipient has it waiting for them when they come back to. We will teach dogs to help you brace, almost like a cane. You can see in this picture with this very handsome dog. That is a bracing harness that we use, and we will, more often than not, it's used to help recipients either stand up off the floor, stand up from a couch, or sit down onto furniture or the floor if they are feeling woozy or dizzy. We do, in some instances, also use it very much like a cane, where the dog will actually help you walk to different places, and you use their body weight to help you stand up. So that is an awesome task. We have to be very careful about that one. We are very careful about making sure that the weight is just distributed properly. But again, that really helps with mobility. Deep pressure therapy, we teach all of our dogs this across the board. It doesn't matter what disability they're helping. I think most of our trainers enjoy this one too. We teach the dogs to very gently put their front legs up onto your lap while you are either sitting in a chair or on the ground. They keep their back legs on the ground. And while they're up on your lap, they trigger pressure points in your legs. It's very much like a weighted blanket, and those pressure points help soothe you and calm you. And so we teach the dogs to come up and just be very still and gentle, putting all their weight down onto your legs. And it's just this calming aspect that, in this case, very often is soothing after you've had a seizure, especially if it's in public and you're disoriented. It kind of helps you come to and have a comforting source there while you're orienting back. Then VNS activation. This is not a common task. It is an extremely hard task for us to train, but we have before attached a VNS magnet to a dog's harness, like the one that this dog is wearing, and taught them very specifically to rub up against their owner's chest where the other magnet is to activate the VNS system. So again, not an easy thing, but not impossible either. Okay, I think we can move on. Mobility assistance. Again, a lot of this is the same, and this is probably our most common cross-trained disability, where very often we have a cross of mobility and seizure alert. So we already talked about the bracing. Again, you can see that on this dog here, another version of that bracing harness. You can also see that very often it's very stout and strong labs that we use for this. So the bracing, like I said, can be standing, sitting, or walking. For mobility, it's more common that we do it as a walking, like a cane, where it's their permanent method of getting around. Advanced retrieval, we will use this to teach the dog to pick up anything and everything. It could be a bottle of water, it could be a cane, it could be keys, a purse, a wallet. We've even taught dogs to pick up credit cards off the ground before. Very often with mobility disabilities, it can be painful, dangerous, or an issue to bend over, especially all the way to the ground to pick something up. So we'll teach the dogs to pick it up and gently put it in your hand right at the side of your hip. Opening and closing doors, we teach the dogs to use little rope ties that will open doors to, they'll tug them right open. We'll also teach the dogs to push the doors shut with either their nose or their paws, depending on how heavy the door is. Access buttons, we will teach our dogs to hit any number of access buttons, whether it's a handicap button to open a door, an elevator button, a crosswalk button. Usually any type of button, as long as it's not out of their reach standing up, we can get the dogs to hit. We also teach them light switches. They will go on and turn the light switch on, turn the light switch off. This tends to be more, a lot of times this is in our psychiatric field. When someone has night terrors, the dog will be trained on command to go and turn the lights on at night during a night terror to help the person wake up and feel comfortable and safe. But it can also be used for mobility if the person needs a light on to get into their bed safely, and then they want the dog to go turn it off for them. Get help, we will teach the dog that when they know something is happening, they will go and get help from someone else in the house. So this actually is very relevant for the seizure field for children, where when the dog smells a seizure coming, instead of alerting the child, they will run and get help from the parent. So this can be very, very helpful, and it can give parents some calm at night when you have very sleepless nights. We all feel for you when you're going through that. Okay, I think we can move on. So how we collect scent sample. Sorry, really quickly, I just want to look. I thought I included slides to our other fields, but I guess I did not. Okay. So very quickly, let me talk. The other two I want to talk about are psychiatric and our autism tasks, just because sometimes, like I said, those are cross-trained. Psychiatric, in terms of tasks, you've pretty much heard most of them. We'll do deep pressure therapy for anyone. Again, we do psychiatric for civilian and veterans. So it could be anyone, a civilian that's had a traumatic event, a civilian with severe anxiety, panic attacks, depression, bipolar. We've helped borderline before. We do deep pressure therapy to help calm yourself and help soothe yourself when you are going into a bad spot. We will teach the dogs to alert ahead of time to any attacks that may be coming on. We also teach the dogs to do non-protective boundary control in public. In this case, the dogs will use their body as a physical barrier just to create personal space in public for people that may be a little overwhelmed by crowds. That's primarily it for psychiatric. We will do case-by-case basis where we may do extra tasks. Sometimes we'll teach a dog to go around corners in public. That's more of a military one. When a veteran comes back with PTSD, they very often have trouble turning corners in public just because of their intense training. So we'll teach dogs to clear a corner for them so they feel like they can comfortably navigate the public arena. For our autism tasks, and like I said, we have done this for seizure before, we will do tethering for young children. Young children with autism very often do not like to be controlled in public. They don't want to hold their parent's hand, and they are impressively fast, impressively quick, and they disappear in the blink of an eye. So we will use very strong dogs and have a second leash coming off the back of the dog on their vest that attaches to a belt loop or a belt that the child wears. And the children are led to believe that they are helping walk the dog, when in reality the dog is making sure that they don't run away and get themselves lost in public. So that is very, very helpful. And for whatever reason, the children absolutely love being tethered by the dogs. It's a lot of fun for them and completely takes away the negative aspect of being guided by their parents. On the off chance that they do happen to get away, or maybe the tether wasn't on at one point, we also teach the dogs to do search and rescue for the children by scent. So the parents kind of let the dogs go, hold them at the end of the leash, and the dogs take off after the child's scent and find them for the parent. So those are just a couple tasks that I want to mention there. The other thing that wasn't on the slide for seizure alert dogs is that we do something called sequence. And that is where we teach the dogs to do a consecutive sequence of commands without being told. And this is usually during a seizure where the seizure recipient may be alone and needs the dog to actively work during the seizure when they obviously cannot actively give commands. So for example, we would teach a dog to alert to a seizure, and then the alerting to a seizure is a trigger for the rest of the command. So once they alert, they immediately then go dial an emergency phone. They then follow that up by grabbing a vest with maybe medicine or water in it. Then they follow that up by going back to the recipient, laying down, and having the vest waiting for them when they come back to. So that's kind of the extent of the training tasks that we train for all of our different disabilities. So now I would like to talk about more specifically how we collect the scents, how we do the scent training. This is where it gets pretty intense. It's a pretty intensive training, but we love it. We think it's really cool. We have it down to a pretty good science, even though there's honestly not a whole lot known about it. There are not a lot of companies in the country that will do seizure alert. There are many companies that will do seizure response. And so the difference there is that companies will teach a dog to react to seeing a seizure and performing tasks at that point, like maybe dialing the phone or retrieving a vest with medicine. But not many companies teach the dogs to actively sniff out a seizure before it happens. And so there is not a lot of science on this, and we are actually actively in a very, very large study with UCLA where they are working with many of our seizure recipients to try to figure out the science of this, exactly what the dogs are picking up on, how they're picking up on it, and if there's a way that we can target this and make it even more accurate than it already is. But I will tell you what I know, what we know as an organization, and what we have figured out. And I am not a scientist, I am not a doctor, but I am a dog trainer, so I can tell you it from this perspective. We do believe that when a person is having a seizure, they are very likely to give off a pheromone scent before the seizure is happening. And what we have started to pin down, what we believe is happening, what we see in our studies, is that if we look at an EEG of a epilepsy patient, and on that EEG we see a spike in activity before the seizure physically presents, that means that the body is giving off a pheromone scent. If there is no spike in activity before the seizure happens, then it's kind of a toss-up. We have still had dogs that learn to alert to that, but we don't always have dogs that will learn to alert to that. So that is a big one for us. And we can transform that. If you don't have a spike in activity on your EEG, we will train a seizure response dog for you. And we will actively work on the dog being a seizure alert, but we can't say with confidence that the dog is 100% going to alert to your seizures. Now, if you have that pre-spike in activity on the EEG, we can fairly confidently say that we believe that dog at some point is going to alert. Again, there's so much unknown that there is never a guarantee. There's never a constant in this. We've just figured out a pretty good method, I guess you could say a method to our madness, in how we have trained this to happen. The other thing we have found is that when we do collect scents, we get the dogs to very accurately alert to scents with us, but then it does take them, they have a learning process when they go home to learn how to alert to it with you. And part of that is a changing environment. Part of that is a changing in handlers. They don't have the same trainer working with them on a daily basis. But they do usually pick up on it fairly quickly once they are with their permanent recipient. So what we, I don't even want to say what we know. What we have reason to believe so far is that the scent is coming from the lungs. And this is actually a very new revelation that we've gotten from working with UCLA. Before, for the last, I don't even know, 10 years or so that we've been doing seizure alert dogs, we have always had our recipients, either if they have auras and they know a seizure is coming, or right after a seizure, as soon as they're safely able to do so, we have them wipe the inside of their mouth and the palm of their hands with gauze. And then they send that to us. Now, from the study with UCLA, we actually have reason to believe that a lot of that scent, the pheromone scent, is actually coming from the lungs, which is very interesting. And I wish I had more information on that for you, but I absolutely do not, and I'm not the person to talk to about that. But we are rolling with that, and we have actually seen an increase in accuracy with the dog since we've started that. So now we have our recipients wipe the inside of their mouth, then wipe the palms of their hands, and after that they breathe extensively on the gauze before sending it to us, and just put a bunch of puffs of air on that gauze. They send it to us in an airtight container. We get it and we put it in a Tupperware container that screws shut, and we keep it in the fridge. We have found that the fridge tends to keep scents alive than if they were just sitting out on a counter. Excuse me. So that is how we collect scents, and what we do is we wait until we know a dog is going to a recipient. Once I believe that I know a dog is going to be for a recipient, I start talking to that recipient. And again, dog training is so unpredictable that I have had dogs that unfortunately are a month away from being placed, and at that point they find something to be released on and not make it as a service dog. So up until I know 100% without a doubt a dog is getting placed, I don't let a family know because I don't want them to get attached. I don't want them to have that heartbreak. But I do tell them that I have a dog in mind for them. I believe I know what dog is going to work for them, and I need them to start sending us samples. So at that time, they start collecting scent samples anytime the recipient has a seizure. And they send all of them to us. I tell them, send me as many as you can. The more scents you send me, the better. We have recipients that have multiple different types of seizures. We have absolutely no idea if seizures smell different based on the type of seizure. That's something UCLA is trying to figure out. So we say no matter what type of seizure they're having, send it to us. If it's different types of seizures, you can label what it is, but we want as many different scent samples as we can to work on. And then that leads us into how we are actually training it. So we can move on to the next slide. So pairing the scent with an alert. So when we are training this, we need the dogs to have a very distinctive way of letting you know that a seizure is coming. Obviously, the most distinctive way a dog could do this is by barking, but we do not do this. We don't think that it's good etiquette for a dog to bark in public at all. And it also calls a lot of attention to you if a dog starts barking, and we don't want to call any more attention to you than you will already have by having a service dog in public. So for us, the best way that we have taught this is a very distinct paw on the leg. The dog comes and sits right in front of you, looks up at you, and places a paw right on your thigh. And so to start all of this, first we teach this to the dog, and we teach it to them as a game. It's very fun. We teach them if they put a paw on our leg, we get super excited. We give them a treat, and then they get to do it 20 more times in a row and get a treat after each one. So you can imagine with very food motivated labs how quickly this process goes. Once we know that a dog totally knows this action, they know what we mean when we say alert, they understand the process, we shut it down and we don't play this game anymore until we have a actual scent. Once we start getting the scents from the recipients, this is where it starts to get interesting and fun. We have to make sure that the scent is just that. It's only a scent. It's not auditory. It's not visual. There can be no other cues to a dog other than this scent. So before we bring the dog and introduce them to the scent, we put it in a room where the dog is not, so we can ensure that they are not seeing us do it and not hearing us do it. We quietly open the scent and we put it in a very casual spot that would not be anything out of the ordinary to the dog. So sometimes, very often, I'll put it in a cup or a bowl on a table, a side table, right next to where I'm going to be working with the dog. So it's nothing that they would pick up on that's out of the ordinary. Basically, we don't want a dog to see something that makes them think of the cue and then start alerting because of that. We want them to alert only because they can smell the scent coming. So once we have the scent out, we will bring the dog into the room. And at this point, this is the first time we've done it. So the dog has not been introduced to the scent before. So we're going to bring them into the room. And as soon as we walk near where the scent is, we're going to start playing this alert game. We're going to tell the dog to alert maybe 20, 30, even 40 times in a row and get them super amped up and excited about it. And we're going to keep doing this several times a day for days on end, even weeks on end, until finally we think the dog is starting to pick up on it. And we're going to walk the dog into the room. And before we can even get to where the scent is, the dog automatically puts a paw on our leg. And I should preface this by saying we're not doing this in the same spot every time. Again, that's another visual cue to the dog where if we go to the same exact spot to play this game, they're going to know. So we move all over the house, all over our training rooms. We do this in many different areas. But at a certain point, we're going to walk into that room, and before we can even tell the dog to alert, they're going to automatically put a paw on our leg. And that's because they have associated that whenever this scent is out in the air, they get to play this super fun game that always results in their trainer being happy and giving them food. And that's that positive association, that positive game-like attitude that we want the dog to have, because we know that they are going to always do it because they think it's the best thing in the world. So once we see that, we know the dog has picked up on the scent. We know the dog understands what they're supposed to do. We reward them like crazy. We keep playing that and we keep practicing. And we start practicing in every room of the house. We go all over the place. Once we see that the dog is automatically alerting all throughout the house or our training room without us prompting it, that's when we start getting even more intense and we start moving in public. Obviously not now with all these quarantining rules, but normally during normal life, I should say, we will then move into public and we will bring the scent in our pockets. And at a certain point, we will sneakily open up whatever it is. Sometimes it's like little tubes we'll carry it in or little plastic bags. We'll open the scent up in an aisle and let it start wafting out in the air and see if we can get the dog to start alerting to it in public. Once we get them alerting in public, then we move out into outside, which is the most difficult. There's so many scents outside. There's the wind that blows scents in different directions. So that's the most difficult. But at that point, once we have dogs alerting everywhere, we know at that point, that's when it's time for the recipient to come out. And so that sounds like a big process, and I promise you it is. I just talked about probably weeks worth of training in about 5 minutes. So that is a very long process, but it is really, really cool. Once you see it click with the dog, you see their eyes light up when they walk in a room, you know they smelt the smell, and that paw goes flying up on your legs. And it's even more incredible once we actually get the recipient with us in person at the trainings. And the very first time, almost always they have a seizure with us when they come to get the dog. And it's almost unbelievable when you see a dog alert them and 5 minutes later they actually do end up having a seizure. So that's where it really all comes together and is super cool. Okay, I think we can move on. So now you know the type of dogs we train, you know how we do the training more or less. let's talk now about who can get a service dog and talk about the recipient side of this, how this all happens. So like I said before, we service everyone possible that we can. Pediatrics, teens, adults, the elderly, anyone that we feel can benefit from a service dog, we want to help. The pediatrics and sometimes even the elderly are those skilled companion dogs where we teach the dog to respond to the person's disability, but a responsible party is actually in charge of handling the dog, especially in public. And this is where it can get a little tricky in school. You do have to work, if you're getting one for your child, you do have to work with the school. I have found that more and more often they're seeing, if they see that you're getting the dog from a reputable organization, they are working very hard. Obviously with a service dog, ADA is on your side and you are allowed to bring your service dog anywhere you go. However, in school, in order for a child to have a service dog, they do have to have a responsible handler. And usually we find that children aren't going to be responsible handlers until they're at least in high school. Usually 14 to 15, they become responsible enough that they can handle a dog at school. Before that, they have to have an adult responsible handler, and the school is not required to provide one. We are seeing that if your child has a one-to-one aide, the schools are allowing the one-to-one aides to learn how to handle the dog for your child. That was the case with my with my personal brother. My brother got his dog as a freshman in high school. He is, unfortunately, because of his disease, he's mature beyond his years. So he actually was responsible enough to handle the dog on his own, but when his disease really does act up, he doesn't have the muscle control to do it. So we did teach the one-to-one aide to handle the dog as well, and the school is very accommodating with that. Sometimes with some families, maybe one parent works and the other parent doesn't work. Sometimes that parent goes to school for a portion of the day with the service dog and handles it for the child there. That's one of the things you have to work out with your school, and we will help you. We are very familiar with that process. I can write all sorts of letters to reassure the school of the training and so on and so forth. But it is, before you get into this process, if you're getting a dog for your child, you do want to start with that, talking with the school and figuring out the logistics of it. I mentioned this before, our dogs can alert to recipients or parents. Obviously, teens and adults, you're going to want the dog to alert directly to you. But with children, we can teach the dogs to pick up on the scent and then alert a parent, which is extremely helpful. And that dial task that we were talking about, dialing an emergency phone, we are seeing that originally that tended to be a lot for our older recipients that may live alone, our elderly recipients that might need help in an emergency. We're now seeing it become very common for our younger recipients, our teens and young adults that are actually trying to be able to gain independence for once. So that is really cool. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So the process of getting your service dog. This is not an easy process. It is a very long process. I tried to put one of our cutest pictures on this slide to make this seem not as painful. I'm not going to lie, service dog is life-changing. It is the best thing we have ever done for my brother. He is a different person since getting a service dog. He's now 18 going on 19, so he's had his service dog for, let's see, he's had Mocha for about 4 years now. And it has been life-changing, but it is not easy. It is an extremely hard process. It is the process of signing up, fundraising, and waiting is miserable. There is nothing worse than sitting on a wait list and waiting for someone that you don't know to train a dog for you and not knowing when it's going to be. We as a dog organization cannot give you a realistic wait time. We can say our average is this, but we have no idea. It's going to depend on what our dogs are doing in one specific year, how many litters we have in a specific year. It's going to depend on if you have restrictions, like if you have allergies and we have to train a poodle for you. If you only want one specific breed, then that's going to lengthen your wait time. So there is a lot of waiting in this, and that is very hard for people, and understandably so. But that is one thing to expect getting into this is it's not a quick process. So to sign up first, it usually takes 2 to 3 months to get signed up with our company, and you will find that all legitimate organizations are like that. And again, if you are getting into this, obviously we would love to help you, but we truly believe that we're not out to sell service dogs. We want to make sure that you get the right fit. So I would encourage you that if you are looking into this process to go to ADI, Assistance Dogs International, and that will list all of the reputable organizations in North America. And I would strongly suggest choosing an organization from ADI. There are just too many unfortunate people out in the world today that will say they're going to train a service dog for you. They intentionally list a much lower price. They say they can get you a service dog in 3 months, and then they give you an untrained 5-month-old puppy and send you on your way. The sticker price of service dogs is quite a shock. There's a lot of gasping when people hear the cost of a service dog, but it's unfortunately a valid price. It is what it costs us as an organization to train. So I will get into that. So again, to start off, getting a service dog, you have to sign up with our organization. In order to sign up, you have to fill out a pretty lengthy application. You have to get a personal recommendation and a doctor's recommendation. We do need to talk with your doctor, and we have to see that a service dog is going to suit you well and not make your life harder. At that point, when all of that happens, you get scheduled for a phone conference with our executive director. And so it'll either be her out in California, or it would likely be with me here in New Hampshire. We do give people the option to go to either ranch for their service dog, or they can select that they will go to either ranch depending on which one is quicker. They can pick one or the other. But again, in this phone conference with our director, you will be talking with her or me. You'll be talking with us, and we're just going to lay out the hard truth of service dogs, that it's not easy. It's a ton of work. We want to make sure it's a good fit for you, and we will also talk about your options. We're not the only option. There are other companies that train seizure alert and seizure response companies. There may be ones that at the time have a lesser weight than we do. So we will talk about that. We'll urge you to research all of your options and then come back to us. And at that point, if you are going to come back and commit to us, we need a $500 deposit. And at that point, the fundraising phase starts. Now, our price as an organization to train one service dog is about $38,000. And that is our fundraising goal for all of our recipients. Now, while that sounds like a lot, that actually I don't even think is currently accurate anymore. I believe it's actually costing our organization about $50,000 per dog, which is absurd. But you do have to take into consideration food for a year, trainer salaries for a year, medical expenses, surgeries, spays and neuters, and even just boarding fees for an entire year for a dog. And that's where all of that comes down to, plus the extensive training of our dogs, living with trainers 24/7, going out on public field trips, us making sure that they're comfortable in every possible situation that you might run into. So we obviously, most people don't just have $38,000 that they can throw away. So what we do is we require that a recipient contributes $9,500 on their own. And again, we're not expecting you to write that out of pocket. We do want you to fundraise that. And then together, you and the organization will work together to raise the rest, up to $38,000. Now we cannot put you on a wait list until you have the $38,000 fundraised. And so some people will fundraise all of it on their own. Some people will fundraise their $9,500 and then let the organization do the rest. Once you are on your wait list, at that point, that's just the waiting game. Unfortunately, that is when you wait to get the call from us that we have found your dog. And that is by far the hardest part, especially when you see all of our other recipients getting placed that are ahead of you. Right now, it is an average of about 2 years once you have finished your fundraising. And so fundraising is the variable that we can never define of how long that's going to take. That depends. That really depends a lot on you and how much effort you want to put into it. But once you are on the wait list, it is averaging about 2 years to get a dog right now. Once you've gotten the call that it is time to come out to us, whichever ranch you're going to, you come to us for 2 straight weeks. And for 2 straight weeks, we work every single day with your dog. When we are working with your dog, we spend 1 week at our ranch. We then spend our second week in public. And so the first week you're learning how to handle the dog, you're bonding with the dog, you're learning all the commands the dog knows. The second week we're actively practicing it in a different public situation every day. Once that's over, you go home with your dog, and that is when all the chaos begins. You get home and you have to introduce your dog to a whole new schedule. So I think actually we can go on. I have a whole slide about this. Perfect. So when you go home, the first month is always the hardest month, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Once you have had your dog and you get into a routine and rhythm, your service dog is like a shadow. They're so well trained. They're always at your hip. They're like glued to you. You develop such a strong bond with them. It does get to be incredible, but it takes a lot of work on your end. You're not getting a robot. You're giving a living animal. They're going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to have tough days. They're going to be sick. It is not a silver bullet, and that's one thing we always stress to our recipients. This is not an immediate fix. This is going to take a lot of effort on your part as well. And we always describe it as like having a new child at home. They are going to get home, and no matter how well they're trained by us, they're going to test. They're going to see what they can get away with. They're with new people. They want to find out if you're truly the boss or if they're going to be able to run this relationship. And of course, that's all stuff we work with you on, but it is going to be a lot of effort on your part. And to go along with that, we also don't just give you a dog and say, okay, have a good life. We are in touch with you constantly. The first month, we talk with you every single day for 30 days. And then after that first month, we then need a once a month maintenance report from you for the first 6 months. And then after the first 6 months, we then get a maintenance report from you every 6 months for the working life of the dog. So we are constantly in touch with you. We want to make sure that the dog is working the way they're supposed to be, and we want to make sure that they're not making your life a hindrance. But it is something to know that it's like any skill. If you don't work on a skill, you're going to lose it. It's the same with dogs. You don't get the dog trained and then never have to do anything. You do have to constantly work with the dog on their training to make sure they keep it up. So that is, I think, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is how much work goes into it after the fact. Okay, so let's move on. This is the last slide, and then we can jump into questions. I would suggest, if you are interested, start this process immediately, because there is a lot of work that goes into even just planning to sign up for a service dog. Start talking with your doctors, get them on board, talk with them and see if they think this is a legitimate option for you. Start looking into what the fundraising is going to look like for you. Are you capable of fundraising that? Or are you going to have to rely on an organization to fundraise it for you? I will say recipients that don't fundraise at all, they fundraise their 9,500, I should say, and then they let the organization fundraise the rest. They will be on the fundraising list for 3 years before they even get to the placement list, which is then another 2 years. So that is something to think about. If you can't fundraise, are you going to be able to wait 5 years for a service dog? So that is why you should get this process started immediately. You should start looking at the applications, start figuring it all out. One thing that we do that other organizations don't necessarily do is we give you the option to foster a service dog. We are always looking for fosters. The more fosters we have, the more dogs in training we can have. And fostering a service dog gives you a very real life look at what it's going to be like having a service dog in your life. With a foster dog, we expect you to have the dog in public at least 3 times a week. You need to be enforcing their commands. The best part of it all is that it's totally free. We pay for all their supplies, all their food, their toys, everything that you need for the dogs we will pay for, with the expectation that you are reinforcing their commands, helping them learn new ones, and getting them in public when it's safe to do so, when there's no quarantine. So that is an option if it's something you're considering, but don't totally know if a service dog is for you. You can get in touch with us if you're in this area. We foster out to all of New England. But that is pretty much the process. Again, I don't want to sound too scary, but I do want to be very legitimate with you. I don't want to make this sound like it's all butterflies and roses. This is tough. It's a lot. We are here to work with you. We have people dedicated only to fundraising. We have people dedicated only to working with recipients on the wait list. We, of course, have our incredibly skilled trainers working with the dogs day in and day out. But in order to train fully trained service dogs, it is a long time, and it is unfortunately an expensive process. So with that being said, I think we're good to open this up and field any questions.
Thank you so much, Josh, for giving such an amazing presentation. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute everybody. And I know that I'm hoping that some people have some questions. And if you just happen to start talking and someone starts talking, just wait your turn. And we promise we'll get to everybody's questions. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. If you are not going to ask a question, I'm just going to ask you if you can mute yourself. Just so that we don't hear the background noise at your house, because I know how busy things can be. So here we go. Let's see. Of course, if I get the minute. And everybody may need to unmute their own one.
Kristine, while we're waiting for people to answer their questions, I just want to share a story that happened a few years ago to emphasize and to thank Josh again for such a wonderful, comprehensive look at, what it takes to train a service animal. A number of years ago, we had a family from the Cape in Massachusetts that did lose $2,500. They did get some portion of it back by taking the person to small claims court. But there are people that will just hang a shingle and say, oh, we train dogs for you, and not. And that family, it happened to be a $2,500 hit. That was what their deposit was. So I do caution you, pay close attention to the really, really good advice that Josh gave us this evening.
So far I have Luke and I have Natalie that are unmuted. Andy, Lindsay, and Victor, you would have to unmute yourself. I've unmuted you from my end, but you'll have to unmute yourself if you want to be able to ask a question. So the floor is open for anybody who may have questions.
Hi, this is Luke. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I joined just a few minutes before you opened it up for questions. Apologize, I'm at work right now, so I completed a page and then opened my email, like force of habit, and then I saw a webinar. I was like, oh, geez. Anyways, sorry. I digress. So I wanted to ask first, is there like a recording of this webinar or a slide deck or something that I can view later on because I missed most of it?
Yes, this is Kristine, Binette with the Epilepsy Foundation New England. Yes, we will have, this has all been recorded. The questions will be recorded as well. And this will be posted. We'll make sure that we will send out the recording to everybody that had signed up for the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Hi, who's that?
This is Kristine Binette with the Epilepsy Foundation New England.
Oh, thank you, Kristine. Sorry about that.
You're welcome. No worries. You're welcome, Luke.
Do I have time for another quick question?
Of course you do. Go for it.
Thank you. By any chance, was there anything touched upon about if you are interested in trying to get involved with like training service dogs? Hello?
Josh, do you want to take that one?
Oh, Josh is muted. There we go. Josh, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself. I don't know what happened. There we go.
Oh, okay. All right. That is frozen. I haven't been able to unmute myself. Okay, so I'm sorry, were you asking if there's a way to get involved in training service dogs?
Yes, I was.
So I would definitely suggest the best way to start that is by fostering, like I was just talking about. When you
Okay.
foster a dog for us, and especially if you're in this New England area, what we do is we run you through an orientation. Right now with social distancing, it's actually a virtual orientation that we've filmed. But we give you all the training you need. It's actually basically like getting an entire dog education for free. Um, and that starts to teach you how to be a trainer and train a real life service dog. And very often when we have job openings, we actually look to our fosters first to see if it's a career they may be interested in, because we know they tend to have a vested interest in us.
Okay, great. That sounds awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to be really short here, and I apologize. I just got paged, so I have to run. As I said, I'm at work right now. But thank you so much, and I'll definitely be doing my research. So thank you, and take care.
You're
All
very
right, Luke,
welcome.
Luke, I'll get you the information at tomorrow night's council meeting. This is Susan Welby, okay?
All right, great. Thank you, Susan.
All right, bye-bye, Luke.
Okay, bye-bye.
Does
How do
anybody
I
else have any questions for Josh?
leave? Leave.
Oh.
Okay.
I
You
have
can
one.
just,
Hi, sorry, can everybody hear me?
yes.
I was just
This,
wondering if there were like any, I guess, breeds of dogs that have like you found most success with in training in certain tasks, or if it like hasn't really mattered much.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We primarily work with English cream golden retrievers, which if you all can still see the slideshow, that's the type of dog that's pictured here. They're like a bleach white golden. And we also work with labs, and that's what we run our breeding program off of. We tend to find that they're the best type of dog. They tend to have the best personality overall to be a service dog, just because there are certain dog breeds that tend to not be motivated to work. There are dog breeds like Malinois and German Shepherds that they work to work. They always need to have a job, and they always need to be doing something. And then there are dogs like retrievers and labs that work to make you happy. And that's what we want as a service dog, is we want a dog that loves to please you and wants to make you happy and just loves to be with you every day. Labs and retrievers are also notoriously known for having good noses, so we do believe that they have an advantage at sniffing out whatever scent might be coming for seizures. And then in terms of not necessarily breed, but temperament, when we are looking at a dog to alert to seizures, we don't want a terribly anxious dog as a service dog, but we do look for a slight bit of anxiousness or clinginess to a person, because that's a dog that's so focused on their person and their handler that they're going to pick up on any changes, especially scent changes.
Very cool. Thank you so much. This has all been so interesting.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
hi, this is Lindsay. I have a question. I have a black lab and a yellow lab, and I was wondering what it's like to try to train a pet into being a service dog, if that's even possible.
Yeah, so it's no easy task, but it is possible. I would actually suggest looking, if you go to Amazon, you can type in our director's name. Her name is Katie Gonzalez, and she has actually published a book that is how to train your own seizure alert service dog.
Wow.
And so if you are interested in self-training instead of going through an organization, that is totally a possibility. And that book talks about selecting a dog, looking for a specific temperament in dog, and looking for a specific type of confidence level. And then the book is centered around starting with a puppy, but you can really start at any age. And it talks about training a dog all the way through basic training, through collecting scents, and advanced training.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
You're very
Josh,
welcome.
could you repeat her name again? And I'm typing it in the chat window for them.
Yes, I think
It's Lindsay
Gonzal-
Merrill, I believe. Oh, that
No,
was
I mean
after.
the author's name, Gonsalves, Gonsalves. What's her first name?
So I just put it in the chat to you. It's Katie Gonzalez.
Oh, Katie, okay.
Gonzalez.
Okay, I spelled that wrong.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Do we have any
Hi,
other
this is
questions?
Natalie Perry. Would health insurance ever cover like a service dog?
Yeah, so I think this is like one of the banes of my existence. Health insurance
Oh,
will
I'm
not
sorry.
touch a
No,
service dog. They
they will
refuse to
not.
they refuse to touch it, and the reason being is that they claim a service dog is nothing certain. So it's not like a hard piece of equipment that you can always rely on. And so unfortunately, even though a service dog tends to be even more effective than stationary medical equipment, they have that as an out so that they don't need to cover it. It is something that we and ADI as an organization are actually working on with lawmakers to see if we can try to get something in motion where insurance companies would be required to cover it. But yes, unfortunately, that is why part of the wait process is so miserable, is because you do have to work on fundraising the money on your own.
I just
Keep on
want to say,
trucking.
yeah, this is Kristine Binette again. I just want to reach out to those that are thinking. There are organizations out there that will give grants towards the cost of the service dog. They're not huge grants, but it does at least give you a step up closer. I know the Chelsea Hutchinson Foundation gives grants. I believe the Danny Did Foundation does as well. So definitely connect with us if you're thinking that this is something that you really want to start the process of going forward. Definitely reach out to us, and Susan and I or any of the other field staff from the States can definitely help you, kind of point you in the right direction of those different grants that are available up there.
Absolutely. And I just went on Amazon and I found the link for you for that book. So if you guys open the chat window and just cut and paste that link and hang on to it, okay? I just found the book on Amazon.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. My pleasure. It looks awesome. I'd actually like to read it.
We actually require that all of our recipients that are getting a dog through us read it too, so that they have a knowledge and appreciation for what went into training their dog.
Wow.
Oh, shoot, it's out of stock. Crap.
If it's out of stock, it'll
I'm
go.
sorry, that was really unprofessional of me, but I was going to order it and I'm like, wait a minute.
So
Sorry
let me check back in a couple days. I will actually let Katie know. Sometimes she has to let the supplier know they need to restock Amazon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be interested in looking at it.
If for whatever reason there is a shortage and you guys aren't seeing it go back up, reach out to us through our website, because we have copies and we could just take payment through our website and ship it out to you guys.
Oh, okay. That sounds good.
Cool. Sorry about that, guys. Talk about
Thank you.
talk about not having the filter in place.
Thank you.
I love you, Susan. Does anybody else have any other questions for Josh? No? Okay. Well, I guess we're going to wrap up tonight's webinar. Josh, again, it is a pleasure to have you back and talking to our families. It has been a wonderful relationship that we have started with you guys, and we are so looking forward to continuing that relationship. And at some point down the road, I may be contacting you myself because my daughter has epilepsy as well, and she actually does have a service dog right now. Her name is Stormy, and she's a white golden as well. And she's a seizure response dog. And at some point in a few years, she'll probably be retiring. And at that point, we may be interested, and I'm thinking it would be a great next step for my daughter for us to then become fostering for, hopefully maybe we can connect with you guys and be able to help foster some of these dogs and help you guys out by kind of just passing on that torch, because Stormy has been an amazing companion for my daughter and has changed our lives. I mean, I can talk as a person who has daughter has a service dog. Unfortunately, we didn't know about Little Angels until I started working back with the foundation. But we had gotten Stormy from another service dog organization, and we're very happy too. But one thing I want to talk about as a family that has had a service dog and has one in place is the things that you think in your head as a parent that the service dog is going to do for your child or your loved one. And then when you get the service dog into the home, there are things that are unimaginable that you had never thought of that would help your child. Things that you didn't think about to begin with, that wasn't on that checklist. Stormy has taken my daughter and has changed and transformed her into a very independent 12-year-old. One of the biggest things that I love about it is that my daughter has a scar that goes across her head from having brain surgery. And before, people would look at her and look at the scar and ask questions, well, what's the scar and where did you get that from? Now, when we walk through a store, they don't notice the scar, they notice Stormy. And the questions start about, oh, what's your dog like? That's the other thing I just want to make other people know about as well, is that to be aware that if you are thinking about a service dog, that going into a store, and if you want to run in and grab a few things and then run out, it's not going to happen.
I cannot relate to that more.
And that if you don't want people to know that you have epilepsy, if you do not want people to know that you have this, this condition or some other disability, then don't get a service dog. Because the difference is that once you have a service dog, you can't hide your disability anymore. It's there, and everybody will see it. In a different way, in a positive way, I guess. In a way, we've looked at it as a way to educate people, and it's been our education platform, and it's been wonderful. We even made like little baseball cards with like Stormy and Delia's picture on the front, and then on the back of it, it has just like a little bit of information about Stormy, about like what her favorite toys are and what her favorite things are and what she does with Delia. And Delia's got like a little Facebook public group that just kind of goes through their relationship, and people can find out more about what the dog does for Delia. But again, it's just something to think about. I'm more than happy to answer questions as well. Kristine, Binette with the field staff, the main field service manager, more than happy to answer questions too for other families about that whole process and what it is to have a service dog. The work that goes in, it's like Josh was saying, it's not just here's your dog and you're done. Delia has to train with her. I mean, and some nights she doesn't want to, she's tired. Well, too bad. You can't have your extra TV tonight until you're done training with Stormy. So that training has to constantly happen. And, we were told, and I'm sure, Josh, you guys say the same thing, you have a perpetual 4-year-old with you at all times. So the dogs are highly trained animals, but they're still dogs. So you have to constantly be on your guard with that. And that's just things to think about. But in the end, it was the best decision we could have ever made for her. When she's in the hospital and she's having a hospitalization and having to stay, Stormy's right by her side. Delia's had several and will be continuing to have different surgeries coming up too. And when she comes out of surgery and she's in recovery, Stormy is the first one she sees when she wakes up. Stormy's there kissing her face and waking her up and being there for her, where she can just snuggle her face right into her fur and is her best friend. And we wouldn't know what to do if we didn't have her. She not only healed Delia, but she healed our entire family. So she is just the most amazing dog. And the two of them are best friends and are joined at the hip. And, it gets to the point where even Delia's medical team and her medical staff will actually look to Stormy and how she's behaving to judge how good and how okay, like how serious to take how Delia is. So if they see Stormy being extra clingy, extra like on her, kind of guarding her more, her doctors know, hey, this is more serious, we need to pay attention. So that's even been life-changing, where the doctors are even using Stormy as a go-between, and they're quite famous at Mass General. So the pair. But yeah, if there's any questions my end too, I'm more than happy to talk and ask. And Josh, I hope someday soon our lives can intertwine more and we can be a foster family and kind of pass that torch on to knowing that we can help another family get to where we've been, because it's been a long road. You're exactly right, waiting for the dog, fundraising, but there's a lot of things you can do. There's all those go-to things, and I think for families and friends, at least from my point of view, for us, friends and family had always wanted to help. They never knew how. And for the first time when we went forward with this and we started putting the fundraising link up, like it was like a GoFundMe kind of account, they wanted to donate because they felt like it was the first time that they knew they were helping Delia, that they were directly getting involved in helping her and making her life better and safer. And for us, it wasn't hard. The fundraising, yeah, it was a daunting task, but we held a dance. You know, our friends held like bake sales. Even the schools got involved and had a penny sale and did a penny thing for Delia. So, and even helped with that. So we were very fortunate. But again, I think that, you know, it can be daunting, the fundraising part, but you'd be surprised about how so many people, when they see something that they know is going to directly impact somebody for the rest of their life, it doesn't take too long to raise that money. It does happen pretty quickly. So it did for us, at least. And I know talking to other families, it can go quickly. But I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents in there as a mom of a daughter who has a service dog, who's a seizure response dog. And she has saved Delia's life more times than I know what to do with. She's alerted us to seizures at night, and, you know, has just kept her safe, so that my daughter went from sleeping in our bed every single night to now having her own bed in her own bedroom, which has been life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would 100% absolutely love to get you involved anytime you want to. Let us know, even if you just want to come up and check out the ranch up here in Bartlett at some point, let me know.
We would
But
love to. We would love that. That would be awesome. We'd love that, Josh. It'd be
yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely. And to your point about fundraising, it absolutely is daunting. Our fundraising coordinator is actually my mother. She deals with all of our recipients and fundraising, and that's because we have so much experience in it. We were able to raise almost $60,000 for my brother for his dog and then his next dog, just with 2 different events. So we do
Wow.
have a really good fundraising knowledge base here to help our recipients. And the other thing that I didn't mention, it just wasn't even on my mind, we do have a hybrid program that people can look into called Angel Retrievers. And this is if you are interested in self-training a dog with a little assistance, you can purchase a dog from us with anywhere between about 4 months to 10 months of professional training, and then you finish the training with our help with check-ins, and the price range goes up to about $15,000, but it may be a little easier to stomach. It's not a nonprofit at that point, so the fundraising is a little different, but it can be a better solution for people that want to be more involved in the dog training process. So again, that's Angel Retrievers. If anyone is interested in looking at that too, it's a sister company to Little Angels.
That's awesome, Josh. This has been
Wonderful.
such a wonderful, wonderful peek into a really reputable service dog organization. And we're so lucky that you moved to New Hampshire. I'm so grateful. When they looked across the country, I'm so grateful they came to New England all the way from California.
Too. So happy.
Well, I grew up in the Mount Washington Valley, so I might have had a little influence in that.
Yay!
We're so glad you're here.
Yes, we are.
We are very glad to be here too. I don't think there's a better community than New England. Everyone here rallies. And to your point about how quickly the fundraising can go, when people are trying to decide what to donate their money to and they see service dogs, we find that that's one of the quickest things for people to agree to. So it is a large number to look at, but once you start getting going, it really does move quickly.
It does. And again, it's life-changing. I can't say it enough how life-changing it is. Really changes.
Yes. So
Yep.
Kristine and I could share the information with you.
Yep. And this again, we'll get this posted to the recording of it, and we'll make sure that everybody that had signed up receives a copy. So
excellent.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And also pass on to everybody Josh, do you mind me giving them your email address? Is that okay to do? Or what
Yeah,
would be
that's
the best?
fine. Totally
That's
fine.
fine. Okay, all right.
Yep.
So what I'll do too is I'll email the recipients, well, the participants, I should say, and I will give them just your contact information, just if they had any more questions, or just wanted to connect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Susan, what is our next webinar that we're having and what date is it?
Oh my goodness, May 28th, and this one is going to be on memory and cognition, and we'll be introducing the hopscotch program. The title, ooh, hang on one second.
I have it, I think.
It's got a long title in it, so I have to pull up the whole thing too, because I don't remember it off the top of my head. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I think I have it right here. If you,
I'm opening it up now. See who gets there first.
I know.
Okay, taking control, building skills to improve cognitive challenges in epilepsy. And it's on Thursday, May 28th, and it's a lunchtime. It's a lunch and learn from 12 to 1 on Thursday, May 28th. So that's our next big webinar. I have Epilepsy 101 happening on Monday, May 25th at 6:30 at night. So that's what we've got up there now. And then in early June, I haven't put it up here yet, we're going to have one on the vagus nerve stimulator on June 10th.
Wonderful.
And that'll
we'll
be a lunch and
Yeah.
learn as well. Oh, I'm sorry, that'll be an evening one.
And we'll continue having these webinars right through with COVID. We'll be continuously having these webinars going on every month, a few every month. So make sure that you're constantly checking our Facebook page. If you are not a friend of ours, the Epilepsy Foundation New England, find us on Facebook, like us, and our events and these webinars are constantly posted on there to sign up. So or just check in with one of us and say, hey, what are your next webinars coming up? And Susan and I are more than happy to pass on that information to you. So
Okay, and then just as an FYI also, Josh, if you or any of your staff ever want to take our Epilepsy 101s, those are free. Just jump
Awesome.
onto our website and register. Those are available.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Josh, so much. And thank you for everybody that has been here and logged on. We all hope you guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we look forward to talking again.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
night, everyone. And thank you, Josh. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.